Have you ever had something in your life that was unjust, unkind, unfair, and yet you still had to deal with the consequences of someone else's action? Well, today on Healing Rain, I'm interviewing new author Judy Henderson, who's written a book about her experience of being in prison and encountering the transformation that comes from God alone. Judy, your story is so amazing. Tell us, how did your healing journey begin?
Oh, Sue, for one, it's such an honor, and I am so happy to be here with you. So thank you for having me on. My healing journey began when I was convicted of a murder I did not commit, and I spent 36 years in prison until the governor came and released me and gave me a full pardon. And so, because of that, I went to prison very angry, very bitter, very hurt, and had some serious heart to heart conversations, very transparent, angry conversations with God because I knew He had the power to change anything at any given moment. And yet, He allowed this journey to continue. And I had no understanding because I'm a mother of two children that I was very devoted to, that was 13 and 3 whenever I was taken away, and a loving family that none of us had ever been, even had any kind of affiliation with the law enforcement or judicial system. So this was all very foreign and very new to us. Um, my co-defendant committed the murder. He was acquitted. He never did a day of time for this. Um, Two
It must
contracts.
have been so devastating for you and for your children. I can't imagine how difficult it was for them.
Yes, it was very difficult, but and that's one subject that's very hard to even talk about. But um, I mothered from behind bars, and my daughter was very and is still very successful. She's a CEO of an agency for moms and babies. And we've always stayed connected. I taught her how to cook behind walls. I taught her about relationships. So we stayed and remained close all through my time. And my two grandchildren that she had always came to see me since birth. So it was a journey that was hard. I'm not gonna. Nobody can imagine how difficult it is to be ripped away out of a world that you were so familiar and had a successful life and was a business owner, and then to be thrown in a foreign world that you knew nothing absolutely about. Not the language, not the attire, not the verbiage. Nothing was familiar to me. I couldn't understand the crazy rules they had, why they had them. And not to mention, I wasn't guilty of murder and my co-defendant was acquitted. So you can only imagine how much anger I had inside of me.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. And the bitterness, were you afraid when you first went into prison?
Absolutely, absolutely, I was fearful because you hear all these horrid stories, and you're with people because the state no longer had mental state facilities. So they even sent the mentally ill to prisons and still do to this day. So you have a gamut of all kinds of personalities, and you're always having to watch your back. You have to learn how to have a certain reputation during your incarceration in order to earn the respect that will keep you safe.
So, what was your breakthrough?
My breakthrough was whenever I did that 3 day retreat for lifers, that where volunteers come in from the outside world and give of their time to come in and be with us. They were very warm, very friendly. I was very, very surprised at how they wanted to take time away from their lives, their families, to come in to be with offenders that were convicted of such crimes. Why would anybody care about us? I couldn't understand that. So it did take me a minute to warm up to that. And of course, I was very leery because my trust level was not very good at that time. And whenever they started talking and just, you could just feel this spirit about them. You could just feel this aura and the light, that just came from them. And it was just like love, so much love that they didn't judge us. They didn't look at us harshly. They were very kind. They brought all kinds of food that we weren't used to having, in a prison, fruits and vegetables, fresh. And it was like, boy, they went to a lot of trouble, to put this on. This is a lot of work here. And as they started doing the little workshops and the little games that they would play and the little get to know you games, and we got to share, our experiences. At first, I didn't warm up to that real well because I didn't want to be rude and say something that, that was not very received very well. So I was trying to choose my words and just sit back for a minute. But then after a while, it was like you couldn't help but be engaged. That love just poured you in and pulled you to that point to where your heart started opening. And they did a foot washing, which I had
Oh,
never
that's
experienced.
powerful.
Yes, that was amazing, Sue. It was just amazing. And it was like, so that's why whenever I wrote this book, I had to name it When the Light Finds Us, from a life
Oh, that's
sentence to a life.
beautiful. Can you hold up the book so
Yes,
viewers can see this? Oh, that's beautiful. And so tell us, what's the significance of the title for you?
I was in such a dark place, not only outwardly with all the negative energy and all the hatred and anger that was, within that institution, but I was very dark inside my heart and not wanting to let anybody in or believe that anybody had anything good for me because I lived a very abusive life since childhood. And so my trust level at that point being put in a place where there's no other way, that's down, that's bottom. For me, that was bottom. And so I was able to let this light come in and everything started softening up. And then I thought, I'm starting to where I'm not so angry. I'm starting to feel
Mm,
more peace, more comfort.
mm.
And I just felt this spirit of God just come over me like, Judy, this is for a purpose. Find that purpose. And so that's when I started my journey to heal and got all kinds of therapy for my sexual abuse and my battered women's syndrome, which I didn't even know was a term until I came to prison. And I just started, there's two things you can do with anger, Sue, and I found that out. You can either get bitter or you can get better. And I chose better because I
That
was
is
hurting
so
me.
powerful. That
Yes,
that is so powerful. Did you find that it was little by little that you overcame those things?
yes, it was. The more I became engaged with helping others, also was a form of my healing because I wasn't the only one in that prison. I wasn't the only mother that was missing their children. But I noticed that there was a lot of mothers that didn't know how to be mothers. So I thought, hmm, these mothers, I would hear them on the phone or hear them on visits, and they didn't even know how to really engage with their child or what activities to do or how to talk with them. And so I started my journey of starting all kinds of programs for mothers and their children and certain visits where there was no other officers around and that could be very peaceful, very home-like, cooking meals, watching movies together, playing games. And then they had to attend parenting classes to learn What is my child's love language? How can I communicate with them? What is it they need? Well, there's this generational curse I noticed that all their family members, somebody had been going to prison forever. And so I thought, this generational curse has to be broken. And we started 4-H Life, which involved all the relatives, the mother, the grandmother, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins on visits. And they started communicating differently. They started doing activities together. They started uniting as a unit. And so that was very rewarding. So I spent my 36 years creating programs, being a certified paralegal, a hairdresser, a dog trainer. And yeah, I know.
That's amazing. I love
Yeah.
how God took what the enemy meant for evil
Yes.
and he turned it for good. And
Yes.
Judy, even as we're closing, what are some things that you would like the Healing Rain listeners to know?
I would like for them to know that Jeremiah 29:11, that verse was above my cell mirror. And it says, I know the plans I have for you, a future. And a future is not prison. And I want you to always remember that God's promises, and it says this in the Bible, is always yes and amen. I promised you a good life. Amen. And so that's what I stood on. That's what I believed in. And it came to fruition. Everything I stood on and had faith for transpired in God's timing because I strongly believed I would come home from day one when I walked in that prison, even angry. I stood on that and He gave me the faith or showed me how to use the faith that He already gave me whenever I was born, the faith and the strength and the courage and the bravery. We already have all that. We just have to tap into it and just let it grow. Whenever we're in the midst of something, don't give up, hold on to hope, and know that He has you the whole time. He's embracing you as you go through this journey.
Well, thank you for sharing your powerful journey. And for those that are
Thank you.
listening, I just encourage you to find strength in God. No matter what you're facing, no matter what you're doing, it's not the end of the story because God can turn what the enemy meant for evil and he could turn it for good in your life.